Welcome to Buckets. Glad you guys are with us. My name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Future Jays time. Hope you guys enjoyed the NFL season. It is over. That was the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. Congrats to the Seahawks for winning the Super Bowl, I think, at least. Glad to have you guys with us. Hope you checked out the Action Network podcast on Sunday night. Make sure you go back and read that, listen to that on Monday if you're listening to that. Make sure you check out all their content, both there and on the favorites throughout the week in preparation of the big game in 2 weeks. Hope you guys had a profitable NFL season. Now time to turn your attention to the NBA. And what better time to do so than when we don't know who's playing or when or how or if what games will be played or who is actually on planes or not at planes, and everything is chaos and everything is disrupted. Oh, and it's 2 weeks from the All-Star break, so everyone's got basically senioritis for the next 2 weeks. It's a great time to be betting NBA. We're glad to have you guys with us on tonight's show. We will talk about the Denver Nuggets. We're going to dive deep. We're going to try this week where we're actually going to dive deep on a team and kind of talk about their prospects, the market, where all those numbers are at on them, how the market is evaluating them, if there's value to be found on them. We will have a future of the week for you this week, and everything that we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. Best way for you to track your picks. You get up-the-second information where the bets and the money you're coming in on. You get all sorts of great stuff. You sign up for Action Pro, you're going to get Sean Kerner Super Bowl props. You're going to get Chris Raybon Super Bowl sides. You're going to get Nick Giffen Super Bowl props and the analytics team Super Bowl props. I'm sure something's a luck side in there. You can use promo code POD20 for $20 off an annual subscription of Action Pro. If you were signed up for that service for Action Pro back in January when Brandon Anderson, it is January, earlier in the season, I think it was December 1st. Brandon put in the Seattle Seahawks to win the Super Bowl at 70 to 1 because he's an absolute maniac. And it was actually an actually great bet. It was a phenomenal snipe by him. A terrific job by Brandon. You can follow him and all of his futures in the Action Network app if you sign up for Action Pro using code POD20 for $20 off. Okay. I got with me Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera. You can catch him on the Cash That podcast. If you're not listening, go check it out. It's another great podcast. Talks about betting the whole way through. It's a really good conversation. You should go check it out. You can catch Jim Turvey over at Roto Grinders at Turvey Bets. We haven't been together for a little while because I've either had a game or last weekend I had a friend in town, and so I was out of commission, but we are back this week for Future Jays. TBD, we may be doing this live starting next weekend since football is ostensibly done. So you'll be able to catch us on Sunday nights at 11 Eastern live on youtube.com/the Action Network. If you are watching over there, you hear this with every single podcast. Give us a like and subscribe. It really does help us a lot. We are trying to grow the show. We are trying to expand it. We work really hard to give you good content. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe, regardless of whether you love Joe or Jim or Sean Little or Brian Fonseca or Michael Fiddle, Maestro of the Market, or Kyle Murray from Roto Grinders, whichever one of our hosts that you really love and appreciate, give us a like and subscribe for them. Okay. So about the Denver Nuggets. Game versus the Memphis Grizzlies postponed on Sunday. And as a result, a couple things happened. One, the Nuggets gain another game of eligibility for Spencer Jones to put off having to go ahead and put in his doesn't really gain a game because he was going to play today. So it's like that when he will be available for that game, gives them a little bit more time as they try and eke out every dollar on what's going to be. They're going to sign him to a full-time contract. But of course, the bigger story is Nikola Jokic, who gains, if he returns on Tuesday versus the Detroit Pistons at home at Ball Arena, that means that they saved a game of him missing today because he was ruled out of this contest. Before we get the thoughts of Jim and Joe, which I do actually want to talk to them more because I talk about this team all the time, but I do want to kind of get some perspective on the injury situations. Nikola Jokic was expected to miss 4 weeks with a knee bruise. Joker has been warming up on court. He warmed up on court before the Nuggets win over the Bucks. That's significant. Went through his full pregame warm up. It wasn't just like him shooting around. Like he went through his pregame warm up before the Bucks game. I have said that he was going to beat his projection, and I would have been wrong if they had played the game today because he would have not played in the Memphis game, which is the last opportunity for him to beat the projection, which is Tuesday. It is not for sure guaranteed. Like Joker may just get to Tuesday and be like, yeah, he's not ready there yet. Like it's really not about how he feels now. It's the day after. That's the thing. That's the thing, is how does he feel the day after? And it's been, quote, up and down, according to David Adelman, with both him and Cam Johnson. I will tell you, I expect him back sometime this week. If he doesn't play versus Detroit, I think he's back in one of the other 3 games that they have this week. They have 4 games in 5 days because the league is insane. And so he'll be back at some point this week. He will return. He probably will not play in the back-to-back Thursday, Friday versus the Nets and the Clippers, but he will, I think, return this week. That's what I expect. I expected Jonas Valanciunas to return within days after the last time that Adelman updated his status, and he played the next game. So I think Joker comes back, and he will be just eligible for 65 if he misses. How many? Do you know how many more he has to miss, Jim?
Oh, I had it up earlier. I think it's like 2 or 3. It's a very small amount.
Yeah, and so I will tell you, as much as I think Joker is so much like doesn't care, like he gives a very big perception of doesn't care about awards. I did have somebody that like knows the team really well tell me that they thought that he was pretty pissed about not winning MVP last year. So I think he's probably going to compete for it, even though I would tell him, like, there's no point, man. Like, if Shea plays 77 games and you play 65, Shea's going to win it. It doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't
he missed
matter.
14, so he's got 3 more he can miss.
Yeah, it's not a lot of wiggle room, especially if you don't think.
I will also say that he's a psychopath and will try and play through these back-to-backs because he's
I feel like the first one's a lock to be a no. But
yeah, he won't play in that one, but the next back-to-back, I bet he will.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just maybe they'll Wemby him and he can play.
Yeah, they could Wemby
20
him
minutes.
Too.
Aaron Gordon's out with a hamstring they tweaked the other night. AG didn't think it was going to be that significant. I expect that to be like a couple of weeks and not a couple of months. So like, I don't think AG misses more. I think AG's probably back probably after All-Star is what I would tell you, is like they hold him out until after All-Star and then he's back. Just give him the extra rest. And he comes back after All-Star. Cam Johnson will be back at least by after All-Star. He, I think, is the furthest behind. Jonas Valanciunas is already back. So on top of the only last thing I will kind of add on this is that Jamal Murray has been electric, incredible, awesome. And I will talk about some markets that I would wish that we could bet on him. Also, Jamal has taken a beating and has put a lot of miles on legs that have he had a serious injury, and this time that he has held them up is going to cost them later. I will tell you, like Jamal is very likely, is at least higher in risk to wear down once we get into the playoffs because he had to do so much this month. There's a cost whenever guys have to play more minutes because guys are out. Same thing is actually true for Tim Hardaway Jr., Spencer Jones, Peyton Watson. All of these guys have had to take on bigger roles than they're really kind of accustomed to because so many guys have been out, and there's a cost of that. So let's kind of start there, Jim Turvey. They have managed to go 9-5 without Nikola Jokic somehow this month. They have been great without Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. They are tied in the loss column with the San Antonio Spurs for the 2 seed in the Western Conference. Where do you want to start with the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. I had in my notes that 9-5 number as well. And 4 of those games were without Jamal Murray too. Like you said, I mean, we're already kind of seeing the wear and tear on Jamal Murray. I think I know your answer, but I'm going to fire back to you really quick for a question. Do you think the growth of Peyton Watson over last month is worth more or less than the wear and tear to Jamal Murray over last month?
It's really tough. Okay, on the Peyton Watson front, I'll try and go through this really quickly. Coaches are like, this is awesome. He gives us another playmaker. This is so great. He's held us up. We got to give this guy the ball and like see how far he can go. And management's like, or you could not do that, and then we could re-sign him for less, and you could save us a lot of money on the luxury tax bill, which Stan Kroenke very much fucking cares about. So like I think there's a little bit of a battle where I don't think management's not going to tell them no, because John Wallace is just going to be like, you're the coach, which is how you should be. You should always be like, you're the coach. You get to make your decisions. When management meddles, it's bad. See the Memphis Grizzlies and see Calvin Booth and Michael Malone last year. Watson's has been awesome. He's been incredible, and he's been on an incredible shooting stretch. I don't think this is just a hot stretch. I think Peyton has this potential in him. I think he can be this type of player. I will say that like when everybody gets back together, though, Peyton is even if he does this a little more, is mostly going to go back to being stand in the corner, spot up threes, play defense. He will get much less opportunities, much fewer way fewer opportunities to create an ISO situations, which actually he's not that efficient in. His best value is as a spot up weapon. And that's just like objectively true for this team. I think for another team, he could be like an all-star candidate putting up numbers. Like he'd be great on Charlotte. He'd be great on Washington. He'd be great on the Nets. With this team, I think his usage and all that shrinks. It does like carry over in terms of if they run into a situation where they need somebody to go out and get buckets, Peyton is better equipped to do so.
Yeah, I had a little thing here about real quick on the team thing overall with Jokic out. The 9-5 record, it is a minus 1.7 net rating still. I think that's probably closer to the true story of what happened. But those wins are wins, and honestly, it doesn't really matter in the end. What their net rating was during that stretch, because that's not the Nuggets. They didn't have Jokic, so the wins are much more important than the net rating. But I think we need to make sure we're not saying something. I don't think anyone here would try to undersell Jokic's impact, but just it's not like they were actually world killers when Jokic was out. But I mean, Peyton Watson, kind of a sneaky MIP candidate. Denny is kind of running away with that award right now. And like you said, I do think when folks come back, his usage will be eaten into. But I mean, there is a lot here that's pretty impressive. Last year, he was like 8, 3.5, and 1.5 on pretty good shooting splits. He was even improving before the Jokic injury. He was up to like 11, 4.5, 1.5. And like you said, he was shooting well all season. He was shooting over 50% even before the Jokic injury from the field. He's up to 23, 6, and 3 with 3 stocks a game with Jokic out. But I'm kind of with you in thinking that overall his fit, like his ceiling is much higher on another team. I think his fit is decent with this team, in part because he is shooting so well. With this non-Jokic stretch, he's shooting 46% from 3, which is pretty crazy. Guys usually shoot a lot better with Jokic on the court from 3. I do wonder if down the stretch here, though, knowing that Murray just had to eat all these miles with Jokic out, I wonder if we get Murray sitting for a couple weeks with a little hammy or something, and it being Peyton Watson who gets to run things when Jokic is off the court, and his numbers don't necessarily fall off all that much. So, I don't think I would slam an MIP bet for Peyton, but I would keep an eye on it. I would see if he's still starting. You think he will not be starting, and that they really don't want to have him in that power forward spot. But if we're going to zoom out and kind of talk big picture on it, I'd be curious your thoughts on kind of how you see the minutes unfolding in the postseason for them.
So first, the key is you really want to try and play extended minutes for starters in the first round, but not heavy. If you have to play heavy, it's like, all right, you're already underwater. And then you may have to because it's the Western Conference. You just might have to. But like once you get in the second round, it's Joker 40 minutes or more, Jamal 40 minutes or more, Cam Johnson probably 33 minutes or more. Cam's a guy I do not know. I know the least about in terms of what's going to happen. How about this? I think Cam Johnson has tried very hard to be the player that the Nuggets traded for him to be. I think the front office is happy with Cam Johnson. I think the coaching staff is really happy with Cam Johnson. I personally do not think Nikola Jokic loves playing with Cam Johnson. I think he likes playing with Peyton Watson a lot more. And that could change.
Can I give you a Cam Johnson stat? Because Joe and I were really like all aboard the Cam Johnson train. He started off so bad. But so those first 11 games, he shot 21% from 3. He was terrible. Then he missed a game. And after that, the 17 games after that, until he got injured, which is a bigger sample, he shot 52% from 3 during those games and really kind of looked pretty good again. Now, I know that there is frustrations that Jokic has with him, but that Cam Johnson that we got, like he's 43% from 3 overall this season. He actually has been pretty decent. His advanced stats, they don't love the defense with him, and that is a thing maybe that can lead to frustration at times. But yeah, I think he's a pretty big pivot piece. And if he comes back and is shooting like that, maybe he needs to do more than just be able to shoot. But the shooting thing that was so scary to start the season, he actually has looked pretty good, and during that second stretch kind of.
Yeah, it probably is also like you would expect this is like okay, like this is fine from him given some of the financial flexibility that they picked up. It's just that Michael Porter Jr. looks like one of the best players in the league. So I think it's just like a stark contrast, and you're like, man, like we could really use that guy right now. And I think that makes it a little bit harder. But I do think that you're right in terms of what Cam Johnson has kind of evolved into. But the Peyton Watson stuff is good. I think that that's something they kind of have needed. You kind of needed another guy that could just score the basketball and kind of create for himself a little bit. I think is pretty important, especially for given all these injuries that they've had. So I always think that, when guys are out, it gives certain players the opportunities that they might not have really had before. So obviously there's that like wear and tear on Murray that you were mentioning, but I do think that, had Jokic not missed time, had Christian Brown not missed time, had Aaron Gordon or Cam Johnson not missed time, maybe you don't ever really see this version of Peyton Watson developing in the same way, where now you say, okay, well, now we have like another key cog in our rotation. I think that that's pretty important. So I think that one of the things that you had mentioned, Jim, was like their net rating in these wins is a little like fraudulent, but like you said, it doesn't matter. Like the main thing was just that you won these games. And at the end of the day, like that's not even really indicative of who your team is. So I think overall the time where Jokic is out and, some of these other guys have been out has probably been beneficial, but it wouldn't, like you said, it wouldn't surprise me if Murray, something pops up for him, but he's been unbelievable. So I think it's kind of like make the all-star team. And then after that, go somewhere else.
On the net rating front, it's basically they had a blowout loss to the Hawks at home when they ran out of gas. They had a blowout loss to the Hornets on the second night of a back-to-back where they rested everybody.
Yeah.
They had a really bad loss to the Nets in the third game without Jokic after they'd had they were so close to being Cleveland. They lost to them by 5 and the emotional letdown hit them. And that's kind of the key is whenever they have not been able to play with maximum effort without 5 starters or 4 starters or 3 starters, they get killed. So it's like the overall performance is still really impressive. And that kind of explains why the point differential is that way. You're right on Cam Johnson on the coaches loved where Cam was when he got hurt. Like David Allen was like, I'm crushed for him because we loved the way that he was playing. I also just know that Peyton has played with such confidence and has to play with such confidence because he wants to get paid. If you're wondering, would they trade him? The answer I think is probably no. You would have to bowl them over with a huge offer to get them off of Peyton Watson. And it would have to be one of those things where they couldn't say no to it. And I don't think any team is like going in for Peyton Watson. I think they should. I think these are the type of players you should take swings on instead of Anthony fucking Davis. But
I think it feels like much more likely an off-season move.
Yeah.
Because like Denver's not going to do that mid-season.
These mid-season moves are like impossible now.
Yeah. That's the other thing I would tell you is like they're going to play this out because it's like, all right, what's our worst our worst case scenario is if Cam continues to goes back to struggling, we have Peyton. And if Peyton continues to, or Peyton goes back to struggling or has a bad stretch, we have Cam.
Yeah.
Like they're fine. And then they'll decide in the summer which one they're going to keep. They won't keep both, but they'll keep one. Or they'll trade Gordon, which would be bad.
Can we talk Gordon for a second? Because you just talked about how this injury didn't seem as bad. I got like super nervous when I saw this because it's another hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And like I have moved Darius Garland into my I will not believe in him being healthy for a full postseason run until I see it now. And I'm like a little bit nervous that that's the case with Aaron Gordon. Do you think if we're zooming out and saying, can this team win the title? Do you think Aaron Gordon can stay healthy for an entire postseason at this point?
I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and say oh yeah, he'll be fine. He has a calf issue that has popped up repeatedly. This is a hamstring, which is entirely different.
But this is second time injuring this hamstring this season, right?
No, the hamstring was in the playoffs. I think it was the other leg.
Okay.
The reality is just he's in incredible shape, but this is just what's happening in the NBA because they won't shorten the goddamn schedule. If you were give me odds on if Kalshi put up a market for is Aaron Gordon going to be able to play through the entire playoffs without missing a game, it's probably yes, 20 cents is how low I would go. If you were to go, is he going to miss multiple games though? I think it probably goes to 60. No, it's probably what happens.
He's also just he seems like a guy that just plays through injury and will just figure it out. If something's not working for him, he just figures it out. He's crafty enough. He's strong enough.
A lot of this also
saw that.
A lot of this also is based off of a very simple thing, which is like, will he have to? If they get a lie where it's like they face the Phoenix Suns in the first round, they're in a 3-6 versus the Suns. And then the second round is either San Antonio or Houston gets upset by the 7 seed whomstever. Or honestly, I think if they play Houston, I think it's a short series. That's just me personally. But if it's San Antonio, that is the recurring thing I will tell you is, yes, the Oklahoma City thing is daunting because they're the best team in the league. But from a value standpoint, the problem is going to be if they're in a 2-3 series versus San Antonio, Denver's going to be favored, and I will have to be on San Antonio. That matchup is awful for Denver. The biggest reason is that Denver, with their 2 bigs, play drop coverage. They play drop. So the big and pick and roll is retreating back to the rim. Your number one objective in that situation is, okay, we're going to let you do whatever you want in the mid-range. You want to take mid-range jumpers? Sure, fuck it. I don't care. We're not going to let you get to the rim. But Joker cannot handle the amount of physicality and effort that he puts in on offensive possessions and be able to contest ably at the rim. He's especially subject to back screens in those situations. Guys will just clog the paint, and the guard gets around and just gets a layup. Like Ryan Nembhard has 2 career games versus the Denver Nuggets because they could not stop that action. Now, Joker's better in the playoffs and he's great when it's like a big game. Like his defense is that you're like, oh, this is what he can do. But that's still a really big vulnerability. I'm not even talking about Wemby. Like I'm more worried about the guards than I am Wembanyama. But the Spurs also have like a lot of vulnerabilities that we're seeing. Like this is a very still incomplete, inconsistent team. The problem is more just like they're probably a long series.
Those guards could give Murray hell too. Those San Antonio guards. San Antonio's a really tough matchup for a lot of teams.
Yep.
Can we really quick talk about the head-to-head with OKC though? Because
yes.
My little narrative that I have in my head that the numbers I can twist to fit it really nicely is, so last season, they haven't played it all this season, which I think is really interesting because it gives Denver, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it gives Denver a chance to make up some ground on the Thunder, who quietly have been kind of mid the last couple months here. But the last season, they were 6-7 combined regular season and postseason against the Thunder, but it was a big point differential to OKC. So I think, the first layer on this onion is, okay, it looks like a close matchup, but if you use like a point differential thing, the Thunder clearly were the better team. But I think my little narrative is the Nuggets were 3-0 in the games there that were decided by 5 or fewer points. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And I think that Denver can do a 7-game series where they win 4 games by 20 points combined and the Thunder blow out the other 3 games. And I don't think that's a fluke. And I'm relatively confident in that being more likely than the market thinks. That in these close games, I like Denver more than would be suggested. Is that me just grafting a narrative onto this, or do you think there's some truth in that?
No, I think there's a couple of factors here. Here's how I would put it. The series last year was not as close as it seemed. They stole game 1, and from Jim's perspective, it's like, yeah, because the Thunder are clutch losers. But it's that sequence of events in that game 1 were we were all on OKC in that first game because of the history of teams coming off the game 7. If you talk to people that are close to Denver, like I have asked this question, how did you guys win that game? And they say, I honestly don't know. Aaron made a really great
Gordon put back dunk or whatever. Or like
it was a 3. Yeah. It was Russ got the ball out and kicked ahead. Like it was insanity. The dunk was in LA versus the Wall. That's what it was. So that flipped the entire series because now it's okay. OKC comes back, stomps them in game 2. Denver wins game 3. They were always going to win game 3. That's the spot for the home team underdog. OKC comes back, steals game 4 in a clutch game, notably. OKC takes care of business in game 5. Denver comes back, not going out on our home floor. They win game 6. OKC stomps them in 7. So everything after game 1 is pretty much 2 script. It's like what you would expect from that kind of a matchup, with game 1 being the huge reversal. Like it should have gone to game 7. And that's okay because Denver still played them really tough and was the toughest team that they played. The thing that I get to though is, okay, OKC goes 7 versus Denver and Indiana. So they are not an unstoppable juggernaut. Denver's way better. OKC slightly worse. And you saw it again tonight. A massive problem for OKC, even with their bigs, continues to be offensive rebounds and interior presence. They are still undersized because Chet is still skinny. Hartenstein is big and strong, but he's not like Steven Adams. So like Scotty Barnes tonight gets an offensive tap back to pretty much seal the game on a missed free throw from Jamal Shed. These are the type of plays that will kill OKC. Denver is awesome at them. Denver is elite at not turning the ball over this season. Last season, very sloppy. Like Denver won 50 games somehow when their GM and their coach got fired because everyone was so miserable. That team hated each other. They were so miserable last year. And they are not that way this year. They love each other. They love having Tim Hardaway Jr. in the locker room. They love having Jonas Valanciunas in the locker room. They love having Bruce Brown back, even though Bruce has been terrible. There are tactical problems, but also, like, I will just tell you that Denver is, without a doubt, the second best team in the league, and their gap between OKC will inevitably be closer than the market reflects, Jim. I agree. That's my
What
take.
about one more thing? So I guess you're agreeing with me, so I don't even have to pitch you more, but I love that cleaning the glass, against top 10 teams this season, even with all the injuries they've dealt with. Denver's 9-2 plus 5.1 net rating, OKC 6-6 plus 3.6 net rating. Anything to that as well? Or again, is it too small sample? No.
Say it again.
Against top 10 teams on cleaning the glass, Denver's 9-2 plus 5.1 net rating, OKC 6-6 plus 3.6. Do you think there's anything to that?
Well, the Denver Nuggets beat the Boston Celtics in Boston without Nikola Jokic. Does that count? Like, is that indicative?
Yeah, see, that's fair.
It's it's a little random.
Yeah.
The bigger thing is less about how do you perform. I think you have an argument here. It's about curtailing the endpoints of this to go being like, actually, they just beat up on bad teams and are like, the implication is kind of like, they're kind of fraudish. The reigning NBA champions who are on pace for 65 plus wins are kind of fraud. No, the bigger thing here is just the market has to respect them as an unstoppable juggernaut, and they are not.
Exactly.
That's it. That's the play here. So we have a long shot play future of the week for you. And then we're going to talk about some of the other markets to kind of get into before we do best bets. But our future of the week is going to be the Denver Nuggets to win the Northwest Division at 40-1. This is as short as 25-1 or shorter in some places in the market. The predictive markets are actually lower on this than anybody. I think it's fascinating that we're at 40-1. And so there are multiple books that allow you to get Denver to win the Northwest Division 40-1. This is a long shot. We are not playing this for like heavy units. It is a play to be like, to have something fun to have them chase. They are 5 back in the loss column as of Sunday night after the Oklahoma City Thunder lost again, this time to the Toronto Raptors for their 10th loss. So they are no longer going to be the best team of all time. Jim, this is hard for me. I need you to make the case here for the Nuggets to win the Northwest Division at 40-1. I know it's about the number, but even then.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sprinkle. It will be really tough. We were looking at before the podcast, and I was kind of setting the number that I think Denver would need to get to is like high 50s, like 58, 59. The Thunder have been kind of pedestrian the last like month and a half quietly. I mean, 13-9 isn't terrible, but it's below 600 compared to, 24-1 to start the season. They play around 600 ball the rest of the season. They still get to 58 wins, which would, Denver has to get to 58 then, even if they win the tiebreaker. It doesn't seem implausible. It probably seems like about 40-1. So I think there's two parts of this. You have to think that Denver does really well in their head-to-head matchups the rest of the season, and that OKC stays around a 600 team. I kind of think both of those are feasible. But Joe, I know, were you interested in this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number is obviously long, but the fact that they still have all those games head-to-head against each other, I think matters. And like looking at Oklahoma City, again, this isn't so much as like an Oklahoma City's fraudish, but the rest of the team outside of Shea has been very like, meh. Like I'm not very impressed with what I'm seeing like on the rest of the roster. I think it's more of a testament to Shea and like his MVP candidacy and everything else. I think Shea has been incredible for this team. But if for any reason something goes wrong, or even if he missed a couple weeks, like with any type of injury, because they go, well, like we need him to be healthy for the playoffs. Maybe we don't care about the division. All of a sudden, like you're in a spot where Denver's not really that far behind here either. So I think the 40-1 is long for a variety of reasons. And I definitely want to get in at this price, knowing that Jokic is probably coming back this week.
The other thing I will kind of note here on this is when I did the season schedule analysis for Denver, the big conclusion was they have to somehow survive until the All-Star break. And then the basketball gods said, okay, how about if your toughest month in January, when you have the most games, the most travel, the least rest days, the most rest disadvantage games, what if we also took away 4 starters for you? How about that? How do you like that? And honestly, the Nuggets said, all right, bet. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, all right, if that's how it's got to be, that's how it's got to be. Because what's interesting about that particular notion is that what happens after the All-Star break. This is where it gets interesting. Now, Denver hasn't been awesome at home, but I tend to think that that's going to stabilize. A team this good should not be rough at home. After the All-Star break, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th easiest strength of schedule. They are tied for the least number of games. This is extremely crucial. You play fewer games, so you have fewer opportunities to lose and more rest. You have more days off if other teams are playing 28, 29 games. They have 15 home games, 11 road games of those 26. They have more rest disadvantage games because the league continues to put them in bad spots that way, but they're middle of the pack and back-to-back, and this is the killer. If you talk to NBA experts, they'll tell you the biggest problem with the NBA is travel. It's that you play and then you travel and you play and you travel. And it's being on a plane when you're a very large human. The Denver Nuggets, who are in the middle of nowhere, whose airport is literally an hour the fuck away from the city, have the second fewest miles to travel after the All-Star break.
That's clutch.
My prediction is that they're going to absolutely murder teams after the All-Star break. It's tough teams, but they're going to be home and rested and healthy and kill teams after the All-Star break and fatten up, which gives you a little bit of value in catching this Thunder team that continues to look more and more vulnerable.
Yeah. And I will say too, I think looking at the standings, I do feel like there's a kind of a drop off after the top 6 in the West. I think that if you get into that top 2 seed spot, where if you be the 1 or the 2, and you know that you're going to be playing a play-in team, I think that that's a pretty significant advantage in the Western Conference, at least right now. So I could see Denver maybe wanting to push for that, and not necessarily settling into that like 3-4, 5 part of the Western Conference. I don't think they'll really drop to 6 at this point, but I could see that being a motivating factor as well for why they might want to push even more. And then again, you kind of avoid that matchup with Oklahoma City if you know you're locked into the 2 or the 3, assuming that you don't flip flop with OKC.
We'll wrap up quickly here with we gotta get the best bets. I do want to note, if at All-Star break, if Kalshi, the predictive markets, anybody puts up all NBA selections, I will be putting money in on Jamal Murray. I think Jamal's been the 9th best player in the league this season.
Wait, do we want to talk the other prediction market thing we have?
I do. Hit it, Jim.
Okay.
Hit it, Jim.
So yes, on the prediction markets, you can find league leader bets for rebounds per game and assists per game. Those markets, you do not need 65 games. Jokic should easily qualify for those. I believe it's 56 games for that. Is that right, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's got a big cushion, and he is easily leading both of these, especially assists. He has a massive lead because Trae Young basically cooked. He's the guy who was the preseason favorite. Now Cade's the closest contender at 9.7. Jokic is at 11 a game. Even if they do a little bit of that Wemby stuff with his minutes, I don't think they'll do a ton of that. And he's got such a nice cushion that I think both of these markets right now, before he comes back, are really, really nice to hit right now. I think rebounds per game is in the mid 50s and assists per game is in the mid 60s for cents for that. We can do a debrief sometime on how those work if you haven't done them before. But basically, long story short, I would make him a heavy favorite to win both of those markets. The implied odds right now that are up are much lower. So I think both of those are really good value to grab before he likely returns this week, if not Tuesday.
Jim, is there a reason with your, because like I know you've been sniffing around OKC as in like, come on. Are they like, come on? Which I appreciate. I do. I'm with you on this. Why are we not just giving out, go to the predictive markets and bet OKC title? No.
I mean, I have. I think I would do it as Western Conference no. Because I think that the bigger challenge is in the Western Conference. There's not really much of a gap there because the market really thinks whoever wins the West will win it. I agree with them there. But I actually do think that, like, I think there's some Lakers being baked in there that I don't want to have to pay for. Like, I really do think that the Nuggets and Spurs are even the Rockets. I'm a little skeptical of the Rockets. I want the Nuggets. I want the Spurs. So I want to target those two teams instead of targeting Thunder. No, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It almost feels like the best way to look at it is like realistically, OKC is not going to be, they're not going to be moving too much further in either direction unless somebody like dies before the playoffs, right? So if you see the way the bracket's kind of shaping up and you see Denver in a 2-3 and you see San Antonio in the 4 or like the 4-5, then you know like Oklahoma City's got about as brutal a path the way that we're capping it as they possibly could have. Maybe that's when you want to buy that like no side of it where you say, well, they probably have to play at least one, if not both, of San Antonio and Denver. Like, I don't want any part of that then.
It's a great point, Joe, because, yeah, the two people that I think are the best contenders to OKC right now would have to go against each other in the 2-3, and OKC could, I think, skate by with an easier matchup in that second round. So,
yeah.
I wonder what price do you want?
For OKC, no.
Yeah.
A plus money would be really nice, and it was there for a second, and now it's like minus 140-ish.
Okay. All right. One more interesting one. DraftKings usually has number one seed up. Those markets have evaporated, and I'm kind of curious why. Because guess what? Detroit is now one game back in the loss column.
Oh, like number one, like overall. You're saying best record.
Yeah, best record in the league.
Oh, like best record in the league.
Detroit's one back in the loss column.
I'm still a little bit Detroit skeptical. Not actually not playoff wise, but regular season wise. But
see, I'm more playoff.
No, it's
I think they're an absolute monster in the regular season, but this screams to me a team that's going to be like, oh no.
I'm seeing it, Matt. I see 11-1 on Detroit, which I don't know if that's enough though.
I like it. I like it because Detroit gets to play in the Eastern Conference. I'll look at the schedule stuff. That is the difference, though, is Detroit hasn't played any of the tough teams. That's why, like, when they play these, like Houston, like they are going to get beat by these tough teams, and if they play them more often, they'll be in trouble. Okay, Northwest Division, 40-1 is your official Buckets future of the week. Let's do best bets for Monday. Let's get into it. We're going to roll through these super quick because this slate is going to be messy, guys. If you're watching the show, you know. Milwaukee, Dallas postponed on Sunday. Memphis, Denver postponed on Sunday. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get their flights there. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get these stuff. Like, it's a mess. And so some of this is like just absolute chaos. Let's start though with Joe Dellera. Give me your 3-star bet of the night.
So I'm going to be on Tari Eason over 15.5 PR. I think this is, I'm like pretty certain that this is going to move up. I think this 15.5 is like really a poorly priced prop. So I would play it up to, honestly, like I would play like 18.5. I think this is a really good spot for him against Memphis, who plays at a really fast pace. And the key here for me is that Steven Adams isn't playing. And when Steven Adams doesn't play, Tari just really slots into a much bigger role as both a scorer and I think in part because the paint isn't clogged. And then he also works effectively as a rebounder. So in 6 games he's played without Steven Adams, he's gone over he's actually had 19 or more in 5 of 6 games. The one miss he had was against the Spurs, which I think is probably one of the tougher matchups for him to kind of succeed in. So here you get this matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. He actually already went over this line against Memphis before. He had 21 PR, 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 11 chances back in November. And his line in that game was 16.5 without Steven Adams. So I think it's a really good spot. The other thing is he tends to take a couple more threes. It's something that Houston doesn't really have a lot of besides, Reed Shepherd, Kevin Durant to a degree, but they're looking at Tari to also stretch the floor a little bit, shoot a couple threes. I think it's a pretty good spot for him. And I like going over 18, again, I would take 18.5. I think that this line is light, especially at the way that this opened. I'm shocked at the 15.5 that it opened at.
I don't know how to scale this for pace because of their various problems. But the NBA doesn't allow us to do per 100s on some of these numbers, which is very annoying to me. But the reason I like this so much is on the point side, the Grizzlies give up a ton of corner threes, and that's where they park Tari consistently.
Yeah.
He's been lights out at hitting corner threes. So I will tail Joe Dellera on this. Sorry, Joe. And I go over 15.5.
His threes line is good too. Like his threes line is 1.5, and he made 4. He was 4 for 8 against Memphis back in November. So I think if you wanted to go that way too, like if you were like, maybe this line moved or whatever, the 1.5 threes might not move. That might be a little bit stickier. So if you wanted to go that way, I don't mind that either.
All right, Jim Turvey, what do you like for your 3-star? Oh, that's right, Jim. You're soft. That's right. That's right. You don't have a 3-star tonight.
Force it on days where the whole world's going to be going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
I looked for like an hour for a third bet and could not find a third bet. So yes,
you have one job. You have one. You literally have one job. That's the only job for today, Jim, for this podcast. That's it.
I brought a lot of nuggets.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I will give a 3-star. Sixers +3 and on the money line. I just think that this is an overreaction in the market. I know Joel Embiid is out and he's been playing really well. Yeah. I've liked how the Sixers have played consistently when Joel has been off the floor. I believe in Maxey and Edgecombe. I believe in VJ Max. I really like the way that this team plays together. It's not that I don't like the way. That's the best thing about the Sixers is they're playing well when the old dudes are playing, and they're playing well when the old guys are not playing. And to me, that gives us some value here in being able to snipe this number versus a Charlotte Hornets team that, look, I have come around on the Hornets. I have bet them to make the playoffs. I have bet them to make the play-in. I am considerably higher on the Charlotte Hornets. I have them projected very well, but when we get into the where this number should be, that is where this stuff starts to go a little bit sideways, and I do not agree with the number. So I wind up feeling like this number should not be where it is in the market. I think that this should actually be, I think the Sixers should be favored here. The Sixers are a definably better team than the Charlotte Hornets still. Charlotte did not play today, right, Joe?
No, they did not.
So as long as they're not on the back-to-back, I'm fine. I would never fade the Charlotte Hornets on the second night of a back-to-back. Shout out Brian Fonseca. But as they are not on a back-to-back, I feel confident in going ahead and playing the Sixers +3 on the money line. I think the wrong team's favored here, so I like the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's go to Jim's 2 and 1 star since he's a coward. What are your 2 and your 1 stars, Jim Turvey?
Yes, my 2-star, Drew Holiday, 20+ points. This did not have a number when we started potting. It does have a number, and honestly, we can remove the Jim Nisopoulos. I'm going to make this a 3-star bet now at +740. I absolutely love this. They gave us this number again. I cannot believe they're giving us +740. Now, I will say that the number alone makes me think that there's part of this cap could be off. So let me talk through all this. Part of this to me was when I saw the line for the game at Portland +9. I said, there's no way that means Denny Avdia is playing. Now, if they're giving us +740, that makes me think that they definitely think Denny is playing. So there's a couple of confounding factors here. I would love to see Denny out. He's questionable. I'm trying to get ahead of the news. I told Matt and Joe before the podcast, the reason I only have 2 bets today, that they're both going to be long shots. I think that on these weird days where, travel is going to be strange, I want to target some long shots. I want to do, 0.1 units. I don't want to go crazy or anything. I do really like this Drew spot, but it's trying to get ahead of injury news here. And I looking at that line, I really think the spread implies that Denny is not playing. This +740 seems to be doing the opposite, because that's basically what it was last game. We got +800 and Drew hit it last game. With Denny out, Drew gets a really nice usage bump. It's a tough matchup in that Boston is a good team and kind of a slow pace. But I think Shaedon Sharpe draws the Derek White assignment, which I think means Drew will get Peyton Pritchard, who's a decent defender, but by no means Derek White. That's a much better defender that you want on you. He played 22 minutes last game, Drew Holiday, that is. He's trending upwards on those minutes. That was a little bit below. He probably could have gotten up to 23. I could see him getting 25 if this is a close game. Obviously, it's a nice little revenge game spot. I don't think Drew's the type to, have revenge or anything. But if we look at how he was starting the season, he was averaging 17 a game. I think this number is kind of wild. Even if Denny plays, I think +740 isn't terrible. And then if Denny doesn't play, I think this is one of the best alts I've seen all season. So I'll be playing this. And then if we get Denny news and can go really quick, and even if that number is half that, I was going to say without Denny, I was going to say play this like plus 300. So that obviously will move if we get the Denny news that he's out. But I like this either way in what I think could be, by that spread, it kind of looks like Denny's out. So we'll have to see here. But that's the 2/ maybe 3-star play. And then my 1-star is Chicago Bulls alt spread minus 10.5 at plus 310. LA is traveling. They're going Dallas to Chicago. Chicago's good again. Maybe not good, but at least decent again. They started the season really well, had a really big swoon in the middle. Now they've won 4 straight against some decent teams too. They beat the Clippers, the Wolves, and the Celtics. They get the second most wins in the NBA since December 16th. Very arbitrary cutoff, but just kind of show that they've been playing good basketball lately. Better record than OKC in that stretch, for the record. They are now healthy again. They're missing Trey Jones, but the rest of the team is back. Giddy is back. He's been getting kind of mid-20s minutes, but he could potentially bump up here. I also will remain LA skeptical. They're a minus net rating team for the season with Austin Reeves off the court. All that being said, I don't want this in a close game. Like, I don't want Bulls money line. I don't want Bulls plus 1.5, because if it's a close game, LA is going to win. They've been doing this all season. It was crazy. I was watching the Dallas game. Dallas was up 7 with like 5 minutes to go, and the Lakers were plus 800. I talked about that Drew Holiday being plus 800 and loving that. That was the best and easiest 8-1 I have ever seen in my life. By the time I clicked it, it had moved to plus 540, but still got in at a good number. Joe and I talked about this. You don't want to bake this into the cap, but I do think there's like a slight possibility with all this travel stuff that the Lakers either don't send a couple guys or sit a couple guys because of all this weirdness. So again, trying to lean into the potential weirdness of the day. Plus, I am higher on the Bulls than the Lakers, both in their comparison to the markets. I don't think the Bulls are a better team, but I could really see this with a nasty travel day, and the Bulls, who have been playing better of late. Lakers go down big, fold, and we get a blowout win.
Luka emotional letdown game too. After the game versus Dallas, he actually invited some people, including somebody I know, to a suite during that game.
Oh, I heard about that. That's
Dallas supporters. True blue Luka supporters. Nico Harrison was not in that contingent, by the way. So on in-season numbers, I'm with you on this, because on in-season numbers, I make this Bulls plus 1.98. So I make the Lakers a little bit over. The problem is, like, this is the best time to put, like, the Bulls are playing their best game, their best basketball of the season since the first month. And the Lakers continue to play some of their worst basketball that we've seen. I will ask you, though, if Austin Reeves is upgraded, what does this do for you?
That's interesting.
So Reddick said that Reeves is on the trip and going to be, and like will play on the trip.
That's interesting. I think he got ruled out, but I guess theoretically he could get. I mean, again, this is part of tomorrow. Like, if I'm saying that guys could sit, guys could also kind of, the injury report could be chaos. So
no Luka, Austin plays.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, I don't think I would want as much. I do think Reeves is really important. Now, if it's no Luka, then that's a big.
But if he's on the report is out, then he's out.
Okay.
Yeah. You're okay. I was to say, I mean, LeBron's got. I think if anybody sits, it's probably LeBron, because what game they play after that is in Cleveland. So, like, if you're going to rest LeBron for any game, it's going to be the game leading into the game in Cleveland, where he can just be fresh and whatever.
But the other thing I will say is Austin's out. LaRavia is questionable. They don't have either one even on the injury report. They will get dinged.
Yeah.
So, but it's also the travel stuff, so maybe the league will give him a break on it. Okay, Joe, let's go to your 2-star plays.
All right. So my 2-star play is Paolo under 4.5 assists. I've been trying to incorporate more unders into my betting here, but part of why I like this for Paolo is it's not really so much a fade of like him, really. It's more of a fade of his like distribution. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, without Franz, I think that he's looked at a little bit more, with Bane, Suggs, and Black as more of like a finisher rather than a setup guy. So when I was sorting by and using some of these tools, like when I had Franz off, but with Black, Bane, and Suggs on, his assist per 36 minutes like drop through the floor. He's at 2.63, and it's a smaller sample size. It's only 6 games, 68 minutes, but I do think that, his scoring kind of like, I wouldn't say it necessarily goes up because he's still just inefficient, but he's just not really looking to distribute as much, I think. And I think that it kind of aligns with what this matchup even is. It's a tougher matchup in general against the Cavs, I think, defensively for some of these guards, or really for Paolo. I think that he can kind of score well in this spot. He only had 2 dimes last time out. He had 8 potentials, but still, he would need an above a 50% conversion rate than against the Cavs in this type of matchup, right? And then the other thing is looking at the overall, just the landscape of the team. I just don't think that they're looking to have Paolo run the offense when you have Black, Suggs, and Bane all on the floor at the same time. So you're generally, with the development of Black, I think that he's another player that can kind of distribute, kind of run the offense to a degree. And Paolo is also somebody that's not necessarily looking to defer to any of those 3. I could see him deferring in certain spots to Franz, but not necessarily to Black, Bane, or to Suggs. So it's more of a like look at the team type of feel. But I also think that with those 3 on the floor, we do see his assist rate drop off a little bit. So
I'll be really quick on that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I love that. And I was really close to making Wendell Carter under points one of my plays. And that's a really nice parlay that I think is correlated. And that's another one with like teams traveling in bad weather. I love that look.
All right, sick. Then so we're gonna grab that. It's like almost even money or so. So you're getting a decent price on this -4.5 or under 4.5 rather. And then for my 1 star, I'm looking at Moses Moody over 12.5 points. It's the same matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think he scored 19 today against them. And Kerr already said that Al Horford and Melton aren't going to be playing in this game. Melton, I think, is arguably the second best player on the Warriors right now. He looks awesome. And the key for me is with those guys off the floor, in particular, Melton, obviously Butler, and then there's definitely no Kuminga either. You do see Moses Moody see a pretty significant spike in his scoring. He's somebody that can score pretty much at all levels relatively consistently. Besides Steph, you really don't have a lot of that on this team. So I think that Moody is going to be the guy that gets some of those other looks. As much as Podziemski, the Warriors have valued him for a variety of different reasons. To me, he's just not a consistently reliable scorer. So I think that Moody is the guy that you would go to. He just had a good game in the same matchup today, or Sunday night. So I think it's a decent spot to go back to him. I think the 12.5 at even money is a little bit light. So I'll grab Moody over 12.5 points.
I want Moody to get traded so bad. I think he's a good player, and I just think he needs to get out of there. He's like what everyone acts like Jonathan Kuminga is.
Yeah,
he's actually good. My 2 and my 1 stars on the night that you're going to be able to find in the Action Network app. I'm going to take Indiana, Atlanta under 232.5. This is mostly a model play based off of where I've been at. Pacers playing a little bit more competitive lately. Just like I have a hard time figuring out what to do with them night to night because they've been a little erratic all over the place, and that's been really tough to figure out whether or not like what they're going to do on a night to night basis. But I just project this one below the number at 227. And if you look at kind of like what the history has been. These are both teams that go under in the spot. They actually are much more under teams than over teams this season, which is not surprising. The Pacers play a little bit harder defensively. So I like that. And then I'm going to take the Blazers plus 9.5. This is a crazy number to me. I have been king of the Blazers are not good, and they're playing really good basketball right now. And I still do not think that this team is good. Jim's laughing. I do not think this team is good. I'm not willing to relent. Like, I'm always willing to say I'm wrong. Like, there's lots of teams that I was wrong about this season. I just am still kind of like, yeah, I don't know about this, but like, they should not be 9.5 point dogs here.
That's why, like, it has to be that Denny's out, right? Like, that's a crazy number.
The number is lunacy.
But so my problem is that, yeah, he's questionable. So they're assuming that he's out. Even if he sits, I can't get to this number.
I agree with you. That's why I was like shocked. I was shocked at that number
like
too.
6.5, 7, fine. You want to go, 8 even. You want to go over 2 possessions. Cool. All right, cool. 9.5 is just way too many. I've got this at 4.7 based off of in-season, based off of with priors baked in, as well as a market adjustment. Like the market number on this is 8.2. So that's how you get to this. Is it's 8.2. If Denny plays, it's right in the middle. So it's a 1.5. Let's say Denny's worth 3. It's a 1.5. Now you get to 9.7. All right, fine. Like the market says that this is accurate. I just don't think the market is accurate in this instance based off of how the Blazers have played, especially how they play good teams. They compete against good teams. On in-season numbers, I make this 5 fully healthy. If Denny's out, that'll probably go to 6, 6.5 for me. I have no reason why this would be 9.5. So I will go ahead and I will grab the Blazers plus 9.5 and hope I am wrong, because I would like them to come back down to earth for a number of reasons. So mostly pride, spite. That's going to do it. Your best bets for Monday in the association. I've got Sixers plus 3, the Hawks, Pacers under, and Blazers plus 9.5. Jim Turvey is very soft and has no 3-star play. He likes Drew Holiday plus 20 or 20 plus points. It's actually plus 790 at DraftKings right now. So make sure you get that. Bulls minus 10.5. Joe Dellera likes Tari Eason over 15.5 points and rebounds. Paolo Banchero under 4.5 assists, and Moses Moody over 12.5 points. It's going to do it for best bets. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. We'll be back tomorrow night live on youtube.com/The Action Network with best bets for the Tuesday slate. Hope you guys have a great week. Stay safe in the storm. Stay safe overall, and we'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.